In the news tonight, Dr. Fong to announce cabinet decision. Residents turn up in numbers for vaccination. And nurses should be commended.
From the studios of FBC Suva, Edwin Nunn.
Bulawanaka, Fiji. Cabinet has made a decision on a possible lockdown in the coming days, with details to be released this evening. Government ministers led by Prime Minister Voreng Bainimarama spent most of the day planning immediate steps to be taken in response to increasing numbers of COVID-19 cases on an almost daily basis. Cabinet considered recommendations from senior health officials before endorsing what the Health Ministry needs to do next. The morning session of Cabinet was also attended by Permanent Secretary for Health, Dr. James Fong. Acting Police Commissioner Rusiate Tundravu and Military Commander Rear Admiral Villamina Poto were also present in the morning session. Walking out of the Cabinet meeting late this afternoon, the Prime Minister confirmed to FPC News that details of what was decided will be made public during tonight's COVID-19 briefing.
I think the people at large will be very appreciative of what we've decided today. Dr. James Fong will make the statement.
And there's no time given as to when the COVID-19 briefing will begin, but Christiana Uluwai is standing by live at the Ministry of Health headquarters. Christiana, what can we expect tonight?
Edwin, given the indications from Cabinet this evening, Dr. Fong will likely be talking about the possibility of a lockdown. However, we've been fielding calls and messages. There have been social media posts relating to this, and a lot of it has been filled by unsubstantiated rumors with no concrete evidence. However, Dr. Fong has already mentioned before that people will be given ample time to prepare if there is indeed a lockdown. Also, Edwin, the Nosori market was closed today as vendors were swabbed by contact tracing teams. Some details about this activity will likely emerge later this evening. The other point of focus was the contact tracing for the 12 people who tested positive for COVID yesterday. We do know that these individuals were out in public and may have come into contact with others, which is a concern for the Health Ministry. And on a final note, the $90 grocery assistance for the people of Suva has ended today, and there is no word yet whether these assistance will be extended further. Edwin.
Naka Christiana. Panic buying continued in the Central Division today despite advice from Permanent Secretary for Health Dr. James Fong that the public will be informed if there is a lockdown. The Fijian Competition and Consumer Commission is urging people to refrain from this as they are only exposing themselves to the COVID-19 virus. Apanisa Wangairandovo reports there were long queues in front of most supermarkets from 8 a.m. today.
People are being urged to stop panic buying as there is enough stock for everyone because the supply chain is not affected.
Do not panic buy, do not overbuy. I urge consumers to think about how much they actually need and also ensure that other Fijians are not disadvantaged because somebody decides to buy more than what is needed.
Joel Abraham says they are receiving stock updates from most supermarkets and at this point it is sufficient.
We have personally gone and verified not just the retail shelves, but the bulks and the warehouses. I urge Fijians not to expose themselves by engaging in panic buying.
Measures here are more stringent. Only one person per household can enter this supermarket.
Please let one member of the family come. Make sure that they buy adequate stuff for whatever is needed at home.
Most of these Fijians have been lining here since daybreak. While there were police presence, it was still not enough to help in maintaining the 2 meters distancing.
Around 70,000 households have been assisted with a payout of $6.3 million through the $90 cash assistance program. Apanisa Wangairandovo, FBC News.
Savusavu residents turned up to Kemendra Central School in numbers to receive their COVID-19 vaccination. This is the first vaccination drive to be conducted in the Northern Division following the recent outbreak of the virus on Viti Levu. Priority is being given to frontline workers, including civil servants, part of contact tracing teams and their families, public service vehicle drivers, bank workers and individuals over 60 years old with underlying health issues. A good number of senior citizens got their jabs when vaccination started at 9 a.m. Police officers were also on site reminding residents to adhere to the COVID-19 safety protocols. The vaccination program will continue tomorrow and will run until all doses are used up. More than 3,000 nurses and midwives all over the country aren't able to celebrate International Nurses Day working as frontliners in the battle against COVID-19. Regardless of the many disruptions to their special day, nurses steadfastly continue to carry the burden of looking after the health of our citizens despite all circumstances. Christiana Uluwai reports.
Fijian nurses deserve our gratitude for putting their lives on the line, ensuring everyone else's safety as the threat of the COVID-19 virus looms.
As we continue to focus our best efforts on the front lines battling infectious diseases in highly charged environments, the Fiji Nursing Association reminds the government that despite these disruptions, we will please acknowledge our nurses for the work that they do.
The International Nurse Day's theme, A Vision for Future Healthcare, calls for the recognition of the role nurse plays in our healthcare system.
Nurses are the most important commodity that Fiji has in these difficult times. And the FNA encourages the government and the people of this country to support our nurses and to invest in nursing for their safety and their well-being at work.
General Secretary Sister Philomena Talawandolu says they are exploring ways to better support local nurses during this time.
What we've been doing so far was just calling them, and they're calling us whenever they want to talk with us. And we're trying to just assist each other psychologically right now.
Fijians are urged to follow the advisories issued by the Ministry of Health to avoid the spread of COVID-19, as this is the best way to say thank you to our nurses. Christiana Uluwai, FBC News.
Up ahead, 4 businesses in restriction breach. And parents spend quality time with children. Welcome back. 4 business operators, including a bus company, are among those arrested for failing to comply with public health orders. This has disappointed Acting Police Commissioner Rusiate Tundravu, who says people continue to disregard the COVID-19 laws, putting others at risk. He says around 631 cases have been recorded from April 19th to date for not following the restrictions as well as breaching curfew orders. Social gatherings continue to be problematic, with 380 arrests, and of that number, 288 cases are liquor-related. Kava consumption in a social setting is second on the list with 48 cases, while 15 are for swimming and 10 for loitering. 11 people have so far been found not wearing masks while travelling in public transport, and breach of containment zones saw 47 arrests. Similar to last year, mosques have been closed during Ramadan as Fiji battles to contain the second wave of COVID-19. Many families will be celebrating Eid al-Fitr differently, with stricter public gathering restrictions in place. Lina Rees reports the final evening of Ramadan is Eid, when the traditional month-long fast is ended with a feast.
For 25-year-old Shahad Akbar, this Eid has allowed him and many others to appreciate prayers with their families.
You get to spend more time doing these prayers and going through the rituals with your family, rather than always, going to the mosque and doing these things away from your home. But on the other hand, going to the mosque for such things also builds sort of a community spirit about, the whole Ramadan and the Eid process.
Head of the Samambulo Mosque says this is usually a time for togetherness, but they must follow the health directives.
During Ramadan, we've done a lot of reading. We've increased on our knowledge on the Holy Quran, the teachings of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and also, we're imparting that knowledge onto our kids, the next generation.
Eid al-Fitr is celebrated with the sighting of the new moon that corresponds with the 29th day of Ramadan for this year. It will be celebrated tomorrow or Friday. Lina Rees, FBC News.
The COVID-19 pandemic, despite its vast impacts on Fijians, provides an opportunity for working parents to spend quality time with their kids. On a normal day, most working parents spend limited time with their children before leaving for work and when they return home at the end of the day. Jeshulal reports the containment period is providing bonding time for many families.
The closure of non-essential services has allowed real estate officer Radhika Prasad to finally spend quality time with a 4-year-old daughter.
Due to this pandemic, I have got more than enough time to spend with my daughter. I've been with her for past 2 weeks now, and this is the 3rd week that's going on. We've been spending a lot and a more very quality time together.
Mothers aren't the only one making use of their time at home.
As a working parent, I usually do not get enough time with my daughter.
During the day, we are at work, we are concentrating at work, but what we have been doing the whole day, what they have been doing, we don't usually know what they have been doing during the day, but it's good to know how they start their day.
Most parents and guardians, while spending quality time with their children, are also making sure they're staying indoors to protect themselves from COVID-19. Jeshulal, FBC News.
The New Zealand government continues to keep close tabs on Fiji's situation as we battle the growing cases of COVID-19. New Zealand has already committed to supplying 250,000 doses of the AstraZeneca vaccine. It's also provided a $2 million official development assistance to support Fiji's vaccine rollout. Minister of Foreign Affairs, Nanaya Mahuta, says they will continue to help when and where needed.
They've got increased community transmission, doing all that they can to be able to respond, and we're doing what we can to support them. We're sending support PPE gear, we're supporting them upon request, and essentially we're keeping a watching brief about what we might be able to do.
Coming up in world news, tensions continue to rise in Jerusalem. And later on in sports, Fijian in World Rugby League official squad.
The flour mills of Fiji has seen an increase in its operational cost, which is being absorbed by the company. According to FMF, no price increase has been passed on to the consumers. The operations are normal. However, all essential items such as flour, rice, peas and biscuits have been prioritized. The company says it learned from last year's experience and have already increased their production. The current restrictions have to some extent impacted the company's staffing and revenue. Investment Fiji, in partnership with the Pacific Trade Invest China and the Chinese Embassy, launched the Fiji-China Trade Expo Series today. Chief Executive Craig Strong says the online exhibition is part of Investment Fiji's Global Trade Expo Series to create opportunities for Fijian businesses globally in these trying times. He adds the exhibition is part of their ongoing monthly expo series that focuses on key markets to promote premium Fijian products and services. Fiji's targeted markets include New Zealand, Australia, China, Japan, India, Indonesia, Europe and the United States.
What is also fitting is our virtual expo this month is combined with PTI China and Fiji Embassy Investment promotional event in Beijing, giving our exporters the opportunity to showcase some of their products at this event and also giving you, our potential investors, the opportunity to see investment projects that are currently available here in Fiji.
Here are the local exchange rates as set early this morning. The Fiji dollar was on the rise, showing gains against 3 of our international currencies we cover. It lost ground against our 2 major trading partners, the Aussie and Kiwi dollars, as well as the euro and the Japanese yen. Prices were mixed on the commodities market. Crude oil was up, rising $1 at $65 a barrel. Gold dropped to $1,826 per ounce, and silver closed up at $27.41 per ounce. We now join Sanifa from HFC Bank to give us the latest figures for the Australian dollar from the money markets.
Thank you, Whitney. The currencies of major natural resource suppliers stood firm amid rising commodity prices. The Australian dollar, which is a proxy for commodity prices, was not far from a 10-week high. The Canadian loonie also rose to a 3.5-year high. The US dollar, on the other hand, hovered near its lowest levels of the year. Traders hung on to bets that the Federal Reserve would remain firm in its easy policy settings ahead of data that is expected to show a sharp rise in annual US inflation. As such, all eyes are now on the US Consumer Price Index report to be released by the US Labor Department tonight. Headline CPI rate is expected to skyrocket to 3.6% from 2.6% previously in annual terms. That's all for now from HFC Bank, Vinaka.
The COVID-19 related restrictions both in Fiji and abroad has delayed the completion of the Urban Water Supply and Wastewater Management Investment Program. The government has partnered with the Asian Development Bank and the Green Climate Fund for the project. ADB's Pacific Urban Development expert Jing-Ming Huan says the restrictions have made it difficult to access the materials and contractors for the project. She adds the completion now is anticipated in the second or the third quarter of 2022. The project represents a total investment of over $800 million.
River Water Supply Scheme will expand the water supply by 40,000 cubic meters per day, which will benefit around 300,000 Fijians in this Suwa-Nausori corridor. Over the last year, we have made significant progress on construction of the new Vaira raw water intake and water treatment plant, as well as Witulu Reservoir.
That is the latest from my end, but coming up after the break, traditional knowledge is vital in combating climate change. Stay with us.
Welcome back. Following recent climate change conferences, there is a notable shift in environmental strategies to consider traditional practices. The impacts of climate change continue to alarm small island nations, also affecting traditions and culture. Details with Josiah Nanunga.
Traditional knowledge and practices play a vital role in mitigating climate change and can sustain one's traditional identity.
Mitigation measures for climate change. Now, most of us are turning to traditional or cultural resources or cultural ideologies and knowledge as a way of mitigating climate change and natural disasters and so forth.
He says youth also need to be equipped with traditional practices and knowledge in order to survive in the coming years.
Viro youth members have been engaged in some climate change mitigation projects recently. They are the ones who will bear the consequences of our current actions to the environment in the near future.
Yes, we have various programs in place. We will continue to prioritize climate protection related projects, and we have started some projects and more will be executed soon.
Villages have experienced severe devastation of disaster. However, they are capitalizing on whatever resources they have to sustain them. Lakamba says they will continue to pursue nature-based solutions to protect the community. Josiah Nanunga, FBC News.
There's a saying that it's not your struggles that define you, but how you deal with them. This rings true for 38-year-old Nitlesh Kumar, a food vendor at the Ndreketi market. Eleanor Turangai View has the story.
For 9 years, Nitlesh Kumar has been selling from here.
I'm selling all these Indian sweets, also selling watermelon and the stuff, food parcels, juice.
With 7 dependents at home, Kumar labors through the whole day to get all his food items sold.
Previously it was a good business going, but this time, due to this pandemic, our business has gone down. Hard to cope up with our family expenses, everything.
The main customers here are commuters along the Lambasa-Nombowalu highway. The suspension of inter-island travel is affecting sales.
Before it was almost 60, 70 dollars, sometimes 80 dollars, because because of this ferry buses stop. So this time our business dropped. Mostly we just get 25, 30 dollars a day.
Despite the struggle, each new day gives renewed strength for the father of 3 to continue to provide for his family.
I used to come here at around 7 and go back home at around 12, 1. But this time it takes a whole day. Since it's a slow business going, I have to wait for the customers, look for some customers.
Kumar believes the struggles one goes through prepares them for a better tomorrow, and that is where his hope lies. Eleanor Turangivio, FBC News.
And in Q&A tonight, Christiana Uluwai speaks to Dr. Alisi Vundiniambola, the president of the Fiji Nursing Association, on the significance of International Nurses Day.
Thank you, Dr. Alisi. Describe the significance of acknowledging nurses across the country during these trying times.
It's important for us to acknowledge them, especially at this time. Today is an international day for nurses everywhere. Just acknowledging them publicly over the radio, on TV, on the papers, that means a lot to them.
Now, what more can be done by relevant authorities, including the Fiji Nursing Association, to enhance the service delivery within the nursing profession?
The Ministry of Health can work together with the association like before. We used to have a very good consultative kind of relationship with the Ministry of Health for the sake of improving the way things are done, not only for the nurses' conditions of service, it was for the general implementation of health services across the country.
And finally, just your message to nurses who are working tirelessly to contain the spread of COVID-19 during the second wave.
We acknowledge them. We acknowledge the work that they do. We know that some of them are on the boat. Some have left their families from Lambasa, Suva, to be in Lotoka and to carry out this work that needs to be done. We acknowledge them. We salute them for the work that they do, and they are in our prayers.
And all the latest in sports now with Jamie.
Naka, and good evening in sports tonight. Olympian dreams of coaching Fiji. And Rambele explores options from Mbati camp. This and more coming up. Sevens rugby remains close to the heart of Olympic gold medal winning captain Jose Colinisau, though the 35-year-old joined Major League Rugby in the USA 4 years ago. Colinisau plans to one day return to Sevens, but not as a player.
Take time to adjust in the professional rugby. Like, this is my first professional, like everything is new for me, like the weather.
The Fiji National Rugby League is exploring multiple options to gather its final squad for the Rugby League World Cup, as its initial camp dates have been scrambled by COVID-19. Head coach Joe Rambele and his coaching staff have mapped out different routes to take depending on a number of possible scenarios. In another proud moment for the FNRL, one of their own has been selected to be part of the International Rugby League match official squad. Etika Tukana, one of the most experienced rugby league referees in the country, is the only Fijian representative at IMOS and is now eligible for international match officiating duties. FNRL head of match officials and former Mbati, Chone Wesele, says this is a proud moment for Fiji. Wesele adds this will also be a pathway for Tukana to hopefully be included in the Rugby League World Cup match official squad in England.
It's really good for our local referees because they have this pathway, not just local pathway, but to international matches too.
Communication is vital during this lockdown period for teams, as training together is out of the question. While some may see the situation as a stumbling block, others can find a positive point that can help them in the long run. For Super Touch Rugby President Sabanada Bodea, that is something he is thankful for in these trying times.
Yeah, I believe something that I've sort of taken from this situation is that it shouldn't deter anyone from doing your own training. If anything, it's a way, it's another obstacle to surpass, to grow tighter as a team, and that's the opportunity that it presents. So it's not so much an obstacle; it is very much an opportunity.
Manchester City won their third Premier League title in 4 years after their closest challengers. Manchester United lost this morning. In our quirky sport of the day, underwater hockey. The name of the sport fairly self-explanatory, but this is what it's all about. That's it from sports tonight. But coming up in Weird and Wonderful, a new study reveals that most people take better care of others than they do themselves. Details after the break.
The eastern half of Viti Levu can expect intermittent showers for the next few days as a high-pressure system to the far south of Fiji directs a fresh to strong southeast wind flow over the group. The west was mostly sunny today with a cloudy afternoon. Eastwards from Pacific Harbour to Suva, it was a cloudy and humid day. In the north, partly sunny with cloudy conditions. At sea, southeast winds 20 to 25 knots, moderate southeasterly swells, rough seas. The next high tide is at 7:25 a.m. with low tide at 1:53 p.m. Sunrise will be at 6:24. The outlook for tomorrow, cloudy periods with brief showers over the major islands, elsewhere mainly fine. And for Friday, cloudy periods with brief showers over the eastern parts and interior of the larger islands. Now to the world of the weird and the wonderful. The COVID-19 pandemic has made people care more for others around them. This was identified by a new survey for Mental Health Awareness Month, which found that 54% agree they're better at taking care of others than taking care of themselves. And recapping our main stories, Dr. James Fong to announce cabinet decision later tonight. Residents turn up in numbers for vaccination in Savusavu and nurses commended. For these stories and others, you can tune in daily to our sister radio station Gold FM. To our poll question this week, we are asking, has the extended school break resulted in more screen time for students? Visit our FBC News website to answer. You can send us newsworthy pictures and videos. Email fbcnews@fbc.com.fj or share it with us via our various social media accounts, including Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. You can also download our FBC app to keep updated with the very latest in sports and news and listen to our 6 radio stations live. That's your news this evening. I'll see you again tomorrow. Until then, stay safe. Modemanda.